Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Insane Neighbor Trespassed and Sabotaged/Flooded My Property and Destroyed My Trees. I Got Epic Revenge." I live in a decently sized property, and at one end of it is a lake that is at least partially on my property. The other side of the lake is owned by an older man who has 3 sons that live with him. I did not mind sharing the lake since it seemed stable and big enough for everyone. The problem was that when the man-made lake was originally built long before I moved to the property, it was not made perfectly. I am no expert on these things, but over the years it has been slowly eroding the area around it and the water comes onto the land. Now, as for our neighbors, I don't know much about the sons, but the old man is 100% insane. I wish I met him before I moved in, because that might have given me a clue that living here was a bad idea. For a long time, things seemed to happen randomly and with no natural explanation. Flowers would die in a way that was consistent with poison, and even old oak trees would seem to get tampered with. I know that he was behind it because nobody else lives here and the trees had drill holes in them before they ended up dying and needing to be taken down for safety. However, the biggest issues with him though came with the pond. Due to erosion, we had gotten stones and put it around as a way to contain everything. Those seemed to vanish whenever my wife and I left for work. There were also traces of shovels being used to actually lower the water line even more. So one day, when a small storm hit the lake, water basically flooded a good chunk of my land, including my shed. I had no idea what this guy's problem was with me, but I was going to catch him this time. I was done playing nice, and I knew that if I could catch him and his sons on my property doing something wrong, I could call the police. One morning, I pretended to go to work when really I came back a few minutes later and got into my hunting gear. This way I could easily blend into the area near the lake without being seen. The only difference being, instead of holding a gun and waiting to spot deer, I was holding a camera and waiting to see my neighbor. I guess with a camera it is still considered taking a shot, so the outfit felt relevant still. I knew he was going to come because I had just planted some fresh vegetables and even got new stones to put around my side of the lake. He took the bait perfectly, and before I knew it, I saw them rolling up on my property with a tractor. At least now I had the answer of how they were moving these giant rocks across the entire lake, because we all knew they were not going through it with those things. I took some pictures and called the cops about trespassers on my property. It takes a long time for them to steal the rocks, and while they ignored the vegetables, they actually did start messing around with another one of my trees. The cops eventually showed up and they looked like deer in the headlights. When they saw me with a camera though, I think they realized that they were in a whole lot of trouble. They got arrested for trespassing onto my property and attempted theft, as well as destruction of property for the one tree I had a photo of them drilling a hole into. They really could not think of much of a defense, but they were able to pull the only one they could think of out of their ass. The old man claimed that the entire lake was on his side of the property line, so he was not trespassing at all. Now, I never actually had the land surveyed, so honestly I have no idea where the line is. My assumption was that it was somewhere in the middle of the lake, but I had no idea. I was sure though that at least where we were standing was my property, and once I proved it, they were going to get in a ton of trouble. Until then, both of us were ordered to stay away from the area in general, so there would not be problems until the report came back. I was at work when the guy came, and I was so busy that I had not been checking in to find out what day he came. We got the report back though, and the results shocked me. I was wrong in thinking the property line was in the middle of the lake. Instead, the property line was showing that I owned the entire lake. It turns out, because of how it was built and the erosion of the lake had slightly moved over the years little by little. So back in the past, the property line was somewhere in the middle, but now it was fully on my property. The only thing that could have been better was if I got to see this insane neighbor's face when he got those results. So now the entire lake was mine, and he knew messing with me anymore would cause him to get arrested. Still, it did not feel like enough after all the damage he had done. I had only gotten him for one act of trespassing, attempted theft and damaging my property. He had done so much more than that to me though, and caused a lot of damage with the flooding that could have been easily avoided. I knew that I was not going to feel any better until I got some good old-fashioned revenge for myself. I did not want to do anything to get myself in trouble, but I wanted to make sure that he knew messing with me was the wrong call. The first thing I did was make sure the lake was secure because I did not want any more floods happening. While it would have been sweet to go and flood his side and have it destroyed some of his property, I did not want to be liable. Instead, I decided to build a fence around the entire lake and nobody but my family could access it now. The lake had been being used by everyone until now, but I was denying him access since it was mine now. He was angry and yelled at me, but I reminded him where the property line was and that I would make sure he was arrested if he crossed it. I am guessing that his sons had at least a little more sense than he did because they got him inside the house before he could take me up on that. He got hit with fines for damaging a 100-year-old tree and trespassing onto my property that he had to pay. In the meantime, I am spending a lot of time making sure my yard is as good as I can make it. Growing flowers, vegetables and even new trees that in time will help replace those mighty oaks that he felt like killing for no real reason. I can enjoy my lake in peace knowing that there is nothing he can do about it. I can see when it's hot his family is looking at the lake and wishing they could still use it as a nice way to cool off, but I don't feel bad. That fence was the best revenge for me because at the end he clearly got the opposite of what he wanted. He wanted to destroy it on my side so only he could have the lake, and now he gets none of it. Greed can sometimes make you end up with nothing, and you can never be too old to learn that lesson. And yeah, ripe stars, as I always say, greed never pays off, and more often than not you end up with way less than you expected, or maybe even with nothing, just like the neighbor in this story. Either way, if you still enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors or crazy HOAs, then I would really appreciate it if you could also like the video, because that would help my channel tremendously. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled Threatening Blades. This is a fun little story. A few weeks ago I was mowing my grass as homeowners are supposed to do. It goes nicely, done in under an hour, which is a feat considering the slope of my land. I go inside to grab a glass of water. I'll need it before trimming back the herb garden. Well, after gulping down the delicious icy nectar, I go out the front door when a paper falls. Curious, that was not there 5 minutes ago, so I pick it up and read in all caps. I'm only going to say this once. Keep your grass out of my lawn when you mow. Sincerely, your neighbor at address. So, I don't have a bag on my mower, but I do my best to be a good neighbor. When I am done mowing, I take the mower into the street to use as an improvised leaf blower. And I do the first 2 to 3 laps with the output facing the center of my lawn. That keeps most of the grass on my property. Apparently Mr. Grumpy F decided that was not good enough and left a childish note on my door. He was burning leaves in his backyard that night and I asked him to keep his kids from putting silly notes on my door. That was my note. Oh well, the handwriting. I just thought his kids are in kindergarten, I think. Sorry, I don't have a bag on my mower and I'm extra careful to not blow stuff into your garden. Just let me know next time and I'll do better. Signed by OP. You effing better keep your crap on your side. Okay, it's on. So I did not mow my lawn for a few weeks. Grass got high, sprouted, you could barely see trees through the grass. It was like the African savanna in my front lot. I think I saw a hippo through the reeds once, though that may have been his wife. It was hard to tell, you know, what with all the grass. Our story takes some time to fester as, with all revenge, it is served deliciously cold. Today a big storm system was moving in and I needed to mow before it hit, and I decided it was time for revenge. I borrowed my other neighbor's mower with a bag and started mowing. However, I did a new pattern, aim at the house and then back to the curb, starting as far away from his lot as I could. Once the bag was filled, I dumped it on the border of Mr. Grumpy F's lot and my own. And then on the last lap with the output facing his lot, I removed the bag. Bag removed, the grass is now able to experience true freedom. My little mower had trouble liberating the huge pile of clippings from its shackles, but it did its best. Almost a month's worth of my grass blew straight into his lawn. Doused his garden, which is 80% white rocks, 20% garden, and now 100% green. Covered his AC unit, completely covered his grass in a maelstrom of clippings. Effin' tell me how to mow my lawn again. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious, have you ever gotten lawnmower revenge on one of your neighbors? Let us know in the comments how it went. The next one is titled, The Feeling When You Get Forced to Join an HOA. I will start this off by saying that my ex is vindictive as hell. We have been fully divorced since about right before the pandemic started. We sold the house we shared and I did not have to pay her alimony because she cheated and we are in an at-fault state. It was messy since D-Day, all of the stereotypes. First the sobbing and then trickle truth saying, I love you, it was just one time, okay, it was 2 years. And then the gaslighting followed by, I'm going to take you for everything, before packing her stuff and walking out. I feel like I never really knew the woman my ex was in all the time we were together. We were married 5 years and together for 7, and in 2 of those 5 married years she had affairs with 3 other men. The final one being a foreign businessman of some sort from what I could find out, and yes, I got tested for STDs and was thankfully negative. And yes, she got pregnant by the final AP, and no, I did not sign the birth certificate because I found out about all the affairs before the baby was born, thanks to a call from the first AP. My ex tried to go full scorched earth on me, but since we live in and were married in an at-fault state, she lost. We did not pay equally into our house and the equity was divided 70/30. So I got a pretty good cash payout when I sold our marital home to put as a down payment on a different house closer to my job. It's a bit of a downgrade but suits a single guy in his 30s like me just fine. My ex did show up to my house once, but I refused to let her in. She complained that I had financially ruined her in the divorce. I said that if she was willing to do that to me first, and the witch had the audacity to say it should have been my life effed over and not hers, I laughed so hard and said it was karma. She yelled that she would sue me for what was rightfully hers. I said if she was gonna sue me, then go ahead and sue me. It would end up the same way in court because she has nothing but a false sob story. She was the cheater, not me. I'm no angel, but I did not do anything to her. And also, she was the one who ruined our marriage. She then said she would tell everyone she could that I abused her. I said I would sue her for defamation if she did, and I was recording our interaction and had those words saved to my phone. She went wide-eyed and her jaw dropped. The look people are calling the surprised Pikachu face, and then I asked why she was there, if not to just try and make trouble. Because she had a new man in her life that knocked her up. She just huffed at me and said she is not around much and she is stuck in a tiny apartment living off his child support till he comes back. It was immature of me, I know, but I did the bit of playing the world's smallest violin. She yelled at me to go F myself and I yelled back that I'd sooner do that than her anytime. She raged at me and then got in her car to leave. I have not seen her since. There is an HOA in my neighborhood, but I was not legally obligated to join it because the last owner of my house was not a member. I made sure of that through a real estate lawyer as well. The HOA had no grounds to force me to join and were not happy about it. The HOA president would show up with forms every week for the first month demanding I sign them. Then she threatened to take me to court, to which I had to get a C&D sent to her from my lawyer to make her stop that. So she started harassing me by looking for any infractions she possibly could to report to the city. An inspector came out several times and found nothing wrong. In fact, I offered one of them a burger while grilling and they graciously accepted. Did I mention the HOA hates barbecues and parties that are not approved in advance? Well, they do. And I like to grill when the weather is good and my neighbors actually love me for it because I invite them over. I had the police called on me several times for noise complaints because I was playing music on a Saturday afternoon while having my friends over. The HOA president I caught trespassing once when she was trying to peer into my windows. I called the police, but she denied ever doing it, so I got cameras and she has not trespassed since. Nevertheless, I still got repeated passive-aggressive letters saying my cameras were not an approved addition to my house. Some months ago, I started getting letters for fines in the mail. And when I contacted the HOA, their representative claimed they had it on record that I had joined and needed to pay all fees effective immediately. I told them that that was not possible, and then they emailed a scanned copy of the forms and they had a signature on them. However, it was not mine. It was very similar in some ways and I recognized right away, as it is my ex's handwriting. She knew what my signature looked like, but it was a loose imitation at best. I got in touch with a lawyer right away over the forged signature. But the HOA still demanded to go to court with me, and it took 7 months before that happened. Meanwhile, they were stacking unpaid fines against me weekly and were threatening to put a lien on my house. We went to court and the HOA president looked very smug, but my lawyer pointed out how the signature was not the same as mine and was very inconsistent in the various forms. I'd never allowed the HOA president in my house and I'd never requested the forms. The idiot HOA president actually slammed her palm on the table and said it was still binding. But when pressed where the fraudulent signature came from, she admitted my ex-wife called the HOA and they sent her the forms and then got them back in the mail signed. But then she actually claimed that she had thought I had signed them. The judge looked at her and asked if she was serious. She confirmed she was. The judge then asked how a woman I was no longer married to, that had never even lived with me in my current residence, was supposed to have any bearing on whether or not I joined her HOA. She went quiet and I could see the "oh damn" look on her face as the hamster wheels were turning, and she seemed to finally mentally put the pieces together. My lawyer then counterclaimed that what the HOA did was blatant fraud and legal action must be taken. And they were. I countersued the HOA for the emotional distress of the harassment I had gotten since moving in, which I had lots of proof of. That won me about 10 grand after lawyer fees that I decided to put towards my mortgage. The HOA president was removed from her throne. I like to think she was kicking and screaming. She was also slapped with a hefty fine. I have seen her outside a few times and she always looks at me like I'm the devil. The HOA itself had to pay all of my legal fees too. I wanted to go after my ex for forging my signature as well. However, I cannot because not long after she forged my signature on those forms, she apparently left the country to be with her third AP. She is somewhere in Europe from what I can see of the final posts on her Facebook before she disappeared. So I cannot do anything against her unless she ever returns to the US. So that was a wash. I'm not getting letters from the HOA anymore though, and the new president has promised to keep things completely cordial from now on. I still don't feel like I got much of a win in this though. Other than the 10k payout, it all felt like a huge waste of time. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, there are many things you can do to your partner that are really not nice. Probably one of the worst things is cheating, but then again, also one of the more serious things is signing them up for a crazy HOA that they never wanted to join in the first place. That is really an evil genius idea. However, I guess in this story, the woman was not much of a genius. And the next one is titled, Disrespect My Mother, Love Thy Neighbor My Ass. Backstory: I lived in a townhome for 20 years or so. My father has been here for 30 plus years, aka since it was built, and we have recently decided to move. In the past few years, all the great neighbors have moved away and were replaced with disrespectful neighbors who happen to live across from me. The last family to move in has to be the worst by far. Let's call them LN, loud neighbors. It is summer break and LN started to practically live in the pool. They leave the pool toys in the pool, trash by the side, and I'm sure the kids see the pool as a gigantic urinal. When they are not in the pool and occasionally decide to go back to their house, they leave their garage open and let their kids run around the complex screaming bloody murder. The mother is standing on the balcony with their tiny dog, who never stops barking and rarely goes inside, drinking wine, watching her kids from below. My mother is a very patient woman who has raised 2 kids in this complex without a single fine from the HOA. The new neighbors have been here for 2 months and get a fine once a week from a nearby neighbor who loves to complain to the HOA. The kids never learn, and one day my patient mother snapped, probably from the stress of eventually moving. She ran down and told the mother that she should teach her kids to be respectful of neighbors and that she's never been fined by the HOA because of her kids. In fact, the neighbors all loved me and my brother, the Spark. In response to the criticism, the LN mother screamed back at my mother, repeatedly saying, get a life, you need one. Go drink some wine and focus on your own family." I had to run outside and bring my mother back inside to prevent a fist fight. Minutes later, the LN father ran to the pool to get rid of any evidence that they trashed the pool. The petty revenge: I've been working at a restaurant that closes past midnight. Since it takes a while to close and get back home, I usually come home at 1 or 2 AM. The LN's dog is left on the balcony at night and their unit is the closest to the gate and side door. I usually use the gate since it is quieter than the side door, but since LN leaves their annoying dog out late at night, I figured they deserved another HOA complaint. As I was about to use the gate, turned around and opened the side door as much as I could and let it naturally slam as loud as possible. As far as anyone knows, the side door's new hinge has made the door slam, and I was not expecting it to make such a loud noise. Oops. Instantly, the annoying dog started yapping at 2 AM, waking up the LN mother, and she started to shush her dog. I've been doing this every night, and once it happens enough, I will personally file another HOA complaint. Moral of the story: treat everyone with respect if you want to be respected and not get HOA fines. Who's back in my room today? Is that the little fluffy cuddle monster? What is the little fluffy cuddle monster doing? Cleaning the paws and then watching the face. Disney. But don't go behind the TV, no? Just stay here. Disney. We still got some construction guys over, so every now and then there are like quite a few noises that Disney does not like, so she gets scared. But usually when she's in my room, it's okay for her. No, she's really a cutie. And she never scratches me or anything. She's always very kind, right, Disney? Yeah. Also, what she's really good at, I gotta say, because I have this curtain here and I have some lights behind the curtain, so late at night when there's like any insects or whatever, like for some reason like coming through like some cracks in the wall or something, she always helps me find them. It's really convenient, I gotta say. So yeah, Disney. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Disney and the stories, and I see you again tomorrow. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.